BDD Coding Express channel. In today's session, we are going to learn the Cucumber BDD Framework Concepts. I'm planning to cover these concepts in 3 different sessions, part 1, part 2 and part 3. Let's learn the conceptual things first and then we'll deep dive into coding part. I swear I won't bore you guys on theory parts. Let's get started. So we are going to see what is test-driven development and why are we going for behavior-driven development. How does the TDD differ from BDD? Let's see the overview of Cucumber and its advantages. On to next slide. Test-driven development. Before we get into these line items, let's understand first what does a developer actually do in test-driven development. They basically create unit test cases on the undeveloped functionality. When they try to execute the test case, obviously the test case is going to get failed, as there is no functionality implemented yet. In order to make the test pass, they develop a code logic and apply the fix. Now the test case gets executed successfully. Here comes a good thing is, code refactoring happens until all the code looks readable and reusable. And this cycle gets repeated until all the test cases are implemented and the complete feature is ready. You might have a question, why the developers are creating unit test cases on the non-existent functionality. I'll give an example. Let's take an e-commerce website. There could be n number of functionalities. For example, login functionality, new user registration functionality, add to cart functionality, product search functionality, and product checkout functionality. There could be many. So what does the developer actually do here is, they pick one particular functionality, one particular test case. For example, they pick login functionality. They create unit test cases for that particular login functionality. When they try to execute that particular test case, obviously the test case gets failed. They apply the fix and this process goes on until all the test cases are being passed. Once the login functionality is implemented, they'll go with the other functionalities, product search functionality, add to cart functionality, product checkout functionality. The main objective of the test-driven development is to deliver the product with complete features with 100% code quality and code coverage. So that's all about test-driven development. I hope we are very clear so far. Let's move on to test-driven development benefits. You could see here, the developer is completely focusing on one particular functionality or one particular test case. So it doesn't have any deviation or any disturbances, which improves the better code quality and coverage. They also perform code refactoring, which builds more confidence to the developers, and there is no chance of getting UAT bugs or production bugs. As we are covering all the unit test cases, that reduces a lot of rework. It also ensures no untested code goes to production. Code logic implementation and the requirements are properly synced at the initial phase itself. That maintains a high degree of conformity. So that talks about test-driven development benefits. Let's move on to behavior-driven development. We usually call this as BDD. Here the tests are defined as behavior of application. These application behaviors are clearly defined by the product owners or business analyst or QA engineers in the form of simple English. Automation QA engineers are pulled in here and they write different scenarios for a particular story and they build the automation codes. When they try to execute the test case, obviously the test case is going to get failed as the specified functionality does not exist. Now the developer is going to put the fix for it in order to make the test pass. And again, as like TDD, the code refactoring happens until all the code looks readable and reusable. And this process gets repeated until all the behaviors are implemented. When we talked about TDD, we were talking about features. In BDD, we talk everything in the aspect of behaviors. In BDD, we follow given when then approach for representing the acceptance test. So that talks about behavior-driven development. I don't want to repeat the things which we talked earlier. Let's try to wrap this quickly. In TDD, it focuses on implementation of a feature. In BDD, we focus on the behavior of application. It's a team methodology, it's a development practice, and test cases are written in a programming language. And here, the scenarios are written in simple English format. Collaboration happens between the developers. When it comes to BDD, the collaboration happens between developer, customer, and the QA engineers. In TDD, programming knowledge is required. In BDD, scenarios can be created without programming knowledge. But when it comes to step definitions, we need little bit of programming knowledge. I'll talk about that thing later. In terms of tools, in TDD we use JUnit, TestNG, NUnit. In BDD we use Cucumber, SpecFlow, Behave. So that talks about TDD with BDD. Let's move on to Cucumber overview. Cucumber is an open source software testing tool. It supports behavior-driven development. I just wanted to emphasize one point here. Now every companies are moving towards BDD, and BDD is going to play a vital role in future in terms of automation. So Cucumber testing framework that observes the behavior of an application. It is mostly and widely used by the testers to develop the test cases or automation framework. As I said earlier, test cases are written in a simple plain English. That is Gherkin. We'll talk about Gherkin later. And all the application behaviors are defined in the form of scenarios. So that takes different forms, inputs, actions, and outcomes. That is given when then. Let's move on to Cucumber advantages. Cucumber helps the business stakeholders to understand the requirement logic by looking at the feature file. We'll talk about feature file later. Business stakeholders are the business people. They can't easily read the code, but they just wanted to understand the requirement coverage in terms of coding. So that is possible using Cucumber. It focuses mainly on end user experience, and test case writing is very easy and understandable. It supports various languages: Java, .NET, Ruby, PHP. And it works as a bridge between business and technical language. How we are saying this? See, all the QA people, business people, and the developers all are going to have an interaction, communication, coordination, application behaviors, and they want to derive different scenarios. So that helps in connecting the dots between business people and the technical people. So that serves the purpose of end-to-end testing framework. With this, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you for watching the video. In the next video, we are going to see what is Gherkin, why do we need a feature file, and what is the purpose of feature, what is scenarios, steps, what is the purpose of step definition, background, scenario outline, examples. Let's learn one by one. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, QA Coding Expertise. Click on the bell icon for the instant notification. These are all my playlists: Xpath, CSS Selector, Selenium, Git Basics, Git Advanced, Capital Gain, tax related videos. So I'm planning to cover both technical and non-technical topics. I'll see you guys in the next session. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.